I'm JP Tuesday.
And I'm Kiki Cannon. As lifelong Disney fans, the work of countless talented Disney creatives have shaped our lives.
Now, as the Disney catalog expands, we're taking a journey through film and television to discover if that spark that shaped us as children lives on in adulthood.
Does your favorite Disney media still cast that same spell? Join us as we find out. We are Rewatching the Magic.
Hi, Kiki.
Hi, Tuesday.
Spider-Man Noir. As of this release, it's already out on Amazon, but we are recording this episode before that. Nicolas Cage reprising his role as Spider-Man Noir in the live-action sense. I'm digging that it's going to be in black and white, but black and white's not your thing. I do like the color option is there, but I'd probably be watching it in black and white. I don't know about you, Kiki.
As a cinematography buff, I know that there's a difference between filming something for black and white and filming something for color. And so if they went through the thing of doing like, hey, we're going to release it in black and white, and then also there's going to be a color version. Like we came up against this when they did Werewolf by Night, because they released it first in black and white, and then later it was like, and now in color, And when you watch it in color, it just feels weird.
It does.
And I think Spider Noir is probably gonna feel the same way, because I've seen the trailers in black and white, and I've seen trailers for it in color, and it just feels wrong when I'm looking at the full color version. But, the personal preference, I guess, I would just say I'm going to watch the black and white version first, and then later I will watch the color version.
Because of the Spider Noir show coming out with Nicolas Cage, we decided let's go back and watch another Nicolas Cage superhero movie.
You mean the Superman where he goes and fights the spider in the third act?
You stole my joke. No, we're watching Kick-Ass. No, we're going to go back to 2007 with Ghost Rider.
Yeah, another Marvel before Marvel Studios, yeah.
1 year, because this is 2007. 1 year later, the first Iron Man movie would be released, starting the MCU. So this is right on the edge of that pre-MCU Marvel.
Yep, this was like the last production, I think, maybe to say Marvel Entertainment instead of Marvel Studios in front of it.
It does say Marvel Studios, I believe, but I don't know. The version that I saw said Marvel Studios, but that might have been a
re-release or something. Yeah. I the one I saw, I do believe had Marvel Entertainment, and it is, all the production stuff for it is listed as Columbia with Marvel Entertainment. So
it's possible that Columbia, Sony went back and put Marvel Studios in there to try to sell it to someone like that.
Yeah, the thing is that this was still when various groups, before the Marvel consolidation that we talk a lot about. And so Columbia still had the rights to make Ghost Rider and Ghost Rider things. It wouldn't be until 2013 that Marvel would retake full control of the Ghost Rider IP for that sort of media.
And then, a few years later, we would see Gabriel Luna as Robbie Reyes, Ghost Rider and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I am still sour we never got that show. We never got the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider show.
I would have loved that show because he was really, really good in that part. But unfortunately, we're not talking about that Ghost Rider. We're talking about the one where Nicolas Cage stares like kind of a goofball into the camera and tried to talk in a Texas accent that doesn't work.
And Nicolas Cage just being Nicolas Cage. I love Nicolas Cage as an actor. I think he's a great actor. But he needs the right director to kind of rein him in a bit before he goes all Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, I think Nicolas Cage can be a great actor. But, watching this movie, my kind of takeaway on a rewatch, because I watched it when it first came out, and then I was like, well, it's kind of meh. So I never bothered to go back to it. But on the rewatch, it kind of hit me like this movie is so goofy and full of pointless jump scares that if you had told me Sam Raimi had nothing to do with it, I wouldn't have believed you.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is that kind of movie. It's just like, let's see how goofy and jump scary we can be.
It's like, okay, it's my first issue with the movie. Yeah, we're already coming out guns blazing. Is that the movie doesn't know if it wants to be action or comedy. And a lot of the quote comedy
Or horror.
Yeah, because a lot of the comedy bits is just Nicolas Cage being Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, but the parts of the movie that aren't Nicolas Cage, like if you just remove, be like, okay, that's its own separate issue. Let's look at the rest of the film without the Nicolas Caginess of it all. There are so many things in there where you're like, this was a bizarre choice. Like, we literally get Blackheart's introduction. Blackheart, played by Wes Bentley. And Wes Bentley, I really had only known him for American Beauty. And then this was kind of my thing of like, where's that guy been? Okay, he's getting work again. That's good. And then he does this, and he comes out as Blackheart, which I will say is a character that I had only ever come across because of Marvel vs. Capcom.
I was going to say that too. And look at how and really he's only in the game by the developer's own admittance because he looks cool.
I always thought he looked ridiculous and not like he didn't fit in with that. I was like, that's got to be some weird Capcom character I've never heard about. And they're just like, oh no, it's a Marvel Comics character that you've never heard about. Because I'm sorry, Ghost Rider is one of the things in the Marvel universe that I don't know too much about. And yes, I know, before you come at me, I know that Blackheart and all is connected with Spider-Man and Daredevil and okay, whatever. But, it is what it is. One of the things that gets me in the movie is like Wes Bentley comes out and they did a pretty good job of making him kind of imposing and creepy. And even though everything around him is CGI and he's just on a blue screen or whatever, the opening, the introduction, I should say, of Blackheart in the movie starts out really good. It's like the rain turns into hail and then it turns into like hellfire coming down. And then he comes swaggering out in a long black coat and he looks like really badass. And you're like, all right. And then he just jump scares you like it's 2005 and we're on YouTube and somebody just sent you a screamer,
Yeah.
It's just like, it's like, okay, that was even several years out of date when they did it in this movie. But it's just like the worst CGI, and he just like walks toward the camera and then he's like, roar, like, hey, audience. And I'm like, I didn't need that fourth wall break. You just took what was for 20 seconds a really awesome villain, just visually, and then you turned him into like, okay, it's another goofball villain. Like, hey, audience, are you scared of me? Well, not anymore. You just did the goofy screamer face,
I mean, they're trying to make him, he's the punk kid of a demon who wants to take over hell. I'm going to push the old guard on. The new guard's going to go and da-da-da-da-da-da-da and, put it together yourself. Which is probably why he's not as imposing originally.
Well, the thing is Wes Bentley is notoriously good at playing creepy roles. I mean, that's why he got nominated for all those awards and won some of them for American Beauty. Like, he is just like a normal emo kid in that movie, and he is so creepy. And like, spoiler alert, the kid in that movie doesn't even do anything, He's just a weirdo. Like, he's not a villain or anything. He's just like a random emo kid.
He filmed a plastic bag.
Yeah, well, and he filmed a girl kind of without her consent for a little bit, and then she found out about it. She's like, it turns out I'm cool with it, and I think that's hot. Like, okay, whatever. That movie's got a lot of problems, but the the thing is like Wes Bentley just on his own, put him in a long black coat and have him swagger around, and he can be kind of menacing in that like emo boy that you don't know if he's about to commit a horrible crime that's going to end up on the news. Like,
Yeah.
that's the vibe he's got, which is a really cool vibe for the disaffected son of, like, one of the higher demons of hell, you know?
Hmm.
Like, if you're gonna be like, okay, come up with a demon that's gonna be like, you know what, Dad, screw you. I'm gonna leave hell and I'm gonna make a hellier hell with blackjack and hookers, like, that's the kid. And then they're doing like CGI jump scares and changing his face and stuff. And by the end of it, they've done so much CGI and so much like voice reverb. That was another thing I didn't remember. Is that
Yeah.
all of the minions of hell, they put this weird voice crackle on top of the actor's voice, and I legit thought my speakers on my TV were going. And then I realized, oh, it's not happening when, like, Nicolas Cage or Ava Mendez or, any of them are talking. This is a sound effect they've added.
And coming back to this movie, and they make Blackheart Legion. And I'm thinking, do you have the rights to that character, Sony?
It wasn't even Sony. Like, Sony just distributed this. This was a Columbia Pictures joint. Like, yeah. So I'm not even sure Columbia Pictures had the rights to it.
Pretty sure that's an X-Men character.
But, like, it was, I know they just wanted to do the, like, the quote from the Bible, you know, which he does quote in there, and it's fitting for a demon and everything. But the thing is like, he just calls himself Legion. He's not actually like Legion from a comic book sense.
Hmm.
It's just that the writer got to the end and it's like, oh, how are we going to do, how are you going to defeat him? How are we going to, and then they come up with that and they're like, oh, and it'll be a good time for me to use that Bible quote and show you how awesome I am and how literary. And then
Yeah.
like forgetting that there's like a whole other person in Marvel called Legion and this guy and him.
Hmm. The Ghost Rider movie had been in development for a long time, going all the way back to like 91, 92, that Marvel wanted to make this movie. Originally, Johnny Depp was in talks to play Ghost Rider in 92.
It was Johnny Depp before he started being Jack Sparrow and everything.
Yeah.
So, like, prime Johnny Depp from an acting perspective. Like, man, that could have been awesome.
If this movie had come out in 92 with Johnny Depp as Ghost Rider, I think that might have worked. But the fact that this came out over 10 years later with Nicolas Cage, like I said, I like Nicolas Cage, but old Nick Cage here is a bit old to play. Whatever dye job or wig they have on him does not look good.
You know what it reminded me of? Watching it, like, in current year 2026?
Hmm. At least that one's comic accurate.
Well, yeah, I know, but, like, I'm not saying anything about the Guy Gardner look. I'm saying that this, you don't expect to be able to go like, that Ghost Rider dude, he looks a lot like the world's crappiest Green Lantern,
Yeah, but again, I like Nathan Fillion, but that would if I had a complaint about that Superman movie, yeah, he's a little old to be playing the role.
Well, the thing is that they have to, in order to make this character work in this, they've got to be like 1980 something. A teenage Johnny Blaze has, and then they've got like the dude from Manifest playing like young Johnny Blaze, Matt Long, who I only know because he was on a show Manifest for like a minute and a half. He was on most of the show. The show just lasted for a minute and a half before getting canceled. But like, it has to be like, here's Johnny Cage at the appropriate age. Now we're going to fast forward 20 years And here's
Johnny Cage?
Nicolas Cage. Yeah, here's Johnny Cage. Johnny Blaze, I know, my brain. Thanks. Johnny Blaze at the age that he should have been, and then, it's like, but we're setting this 20 years in the future where Johnny Blaze is like a really old Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. Like I said, if this had taken place, let's say if this film was made in 1997, sure, Nicolas Cage would have been fine. Still a little older than I would have preferred, but we can put makeup on him and he could be fine.
If this had been done in 1992 when they wanted,
Yeah.
like, cast Nicolas Cage then and it'd be like, okay, that's fine. He hadn't become the weird alternate universe version of Nicolas Cage we all know and love today.
And the thing is, Nicolas Cage is a huge comic book fan. His name comes from a comic book. Everyone knows this one. Nicolas Cage, real name, Nicolas Coppola. He's related to Francis Ford Coppola. To avoid getting any kind of special treatment one way or the other, he took the stage name Nicolas Cage. Cage comes from Luke Cage.
Another character I do not want to see Nicolas Cage play.
And his son, Nicolas Cage named his son Kal-El.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to give Kevin Smith crap for naming his daughter Harley Quinn, then,
Hey, Robin Williams named his daughter Zelda after The Legend of Zelda. I'm not gonna poo-poo on that.
Both Harley Quinn Smith and Zelda Williams are cool people. I have no idea about Kal-El. I get that you really want this, but scale it down a bit.
Yeah.
And it's like, they could have made this movie, and if they wanted Nicolas Cage in it, he could have been the Sam Elliott character. He could have been Carter Slade, because that's supposed to be an older character, Texas Ranger, rides a horse. Okay, cool. He could have even taken Mephisto from Peter Fonda.
Yeah, I mean, Nicolas Cage almost played the Green Goblin, so I can buy it.
Well, yeah. It's another person that without the weird Power Ranger mask looks scarier without it on. It's like,
which is okay. Now that I mention all that, another Marvel actor was almost it was in contention for this. Eric Bana almost was Ghost Rider, but Avi Arad felt that he was better for the Ang Lee Hulk movie, and there you go.
Yeah, which is worse, honestly, the Ghost Rider movie or the Ang Lee Hulk movie?
But like I said, I that Nicolas Cage being a huge superhero fan, big comic book nerd, and his dream to play a superhero. We mentioned it at the top. He almost played Superman, and he never played Superman. He never.
It's never been on film. We have like one little costume fitting from back in the day, and that is sadly all of the Nicolas Cage Superman we ever got, ever.
We mentioned this when we talked about Deadpool and Wolverine, that he was contacted to reprise the role in Deadpool and Wolverine. It just never happened. And, for all the complaints about this movie, I still wish that that had happened. I don't know how it would have worked, but, would have been cool.
I would have, they did all that to just kind of be like, okay, we're going to make nods to these other characters, and then we're going to erase them from the universe. And I would have kind of liked the finality of watching Nick Cage's Ghost Rider be like erased from the universe. I don't know. It just, everything about this movie was just, I had forgotten just how weird it is. It's not that there's not things that you can find enjoyable about this movie, and if you find this movie enjoyable, I do not judge you, but I think in retrospect, with the nostalgia goggles on, I had remembered this movie as more like laughably bad than just a slog bad.
Gabriel Luna, when he was cast to do Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as Ghost Rider, there were discussions that Nicolas Cage is the only Ghost Rider, blah, 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 blah. And so there are people who have a soft spot for this character, for Nicolas Cage's version of Ghost Rider, specifically this movie. It could just be nostalgia. It could just be, he was the first actor to play this character. Therefore, he is the best and he is the bestest in ever. Even, discussion, even with the discussions of the upcoming Masters of the Universe movie, talking about, Dolph Lundgren or John Irwin, the original voice, was the best He-Man ever. It's like nostalgia's a hell of a drug, which is all I got to say about that.
I will say something though, like at the premiere of He-Man, they did have like Dolph Lundgren hand over the sword to the actor playing him in the movie. And I'm like, you know what? Dolph Lundgren's like 68 or 70 or something now. And he still looks like He-Man, even fully clothed. And him standing next to the guy that's actually playing He-Man in this movie was hilarious. Because I'm like, if you'd asked me which of these two actors should be cast as He-Man, I'd be like, well, the old dude's a little too old, but that young dude is a little too, like, skinny and, not, like, Dolph Lundgren's just like an absolute wall,
Yeah. I think the only other actor we haven't mentioned that's in this movie is Eva Mendes as Roxanne Simpson, the love interest. Eva Mendes is fine. I think that we'll get into it. I have nothing against Eva Mendes. My issues are with the characterization of Roxanne in the movie, and I'll get to it when we get to those parts of the movie.
Yeah, I fully blame the writer-director there, which, he also did the Ben Affleck Daredevil.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Yeah.
It's not that all of his movies are bad. Like, he started his career writing the Grumpy Old Men movie, which was actually funny. And it's just like, maybe don't let him write comic book movies or direct them, because apparently he goes a little Sam Raimi with it. Another person who should never be allowed to direct a comic book movie.
Yeah. So, you mentioned Sam Elliott playing Carter Slade, the OG Ghost Rider, the original Ghost Rider that appeared in the comics in the 60s. And I'm glad they didn't give him his comic book outfit. For those of you who've never seen the Carter Slade Ghost Rider, it's an all-white outfit, and he's a Texas Ranger, and he's delivering justice. I'm just saying the all-white outfit probably would not be a good thing, and I'm so glad that they did not give him that outfit in the movie.
Yeah, I think they skeleton cowboy on a fiery steed look that they went for much better.
Even now, he's not even referred to as Ghost Rider in the comics. He's referred to as Phantom Rider, because he's not Spirit of Vengeance. He doesn't have the Spirit of Vengeance. He's just a dude.
Yeah, you kind of need the penance stare to be Ghost Rider, So yeah, and the Peter Fonda Mephisto,
Remember that weird time where everyone thought Mephisto was going to be like the big bad of the TV Marvel universe? Where everything was Mephisto was coming?
Weren't those good days?
Where everyone thought Mephisto was going to be the real big bad of WandaVision, or Mephisto's going to be the real big bad of Loki. Good times, good times.
Well, I never thought he was going to have anything to do with Loki personally, because that's just not the vibe. But that should have absolutely been, and look at me, I have picked yet another hill to die on. That really should have been the kind of final boss of both WandaVision and Agatha all along, if you ask me.
Fair enough.
The fact that he never really showed up in either show, kind of meh.
Yeah.
It's another Ralph Boner.
Yep.
But speaking of people in this movie that I did not realize were in this movie, did you realize that was Rebel Wilson?
I think this was like one of her first films.
Oh yeah, definitely, because she's so young looking in it, and she's doing an American accent, but
yeah, Rebel Wilson as this goth girl.
I don't even think she has a name. I think she's just like girl saved by Mugger or whatever, Or Girls Save from Mugger, excuse me.
This is a few years before Pitch Perfect.
Yeah, and that is, I mean, they just needed that scene to show us the penance stare so that Nicolas Cage in the next scene could be like, what happened with my eyes, you know? But speaking of just like Ghost Rider in this movie, did y'all remember that it takes like 50 freaking minutes before we actually get Johnny Blaze as Ghost Rider?
Yeah, and like it's also Nicolas Cage mugging for the camera as he transforms into the Ghost Rider.
Yeah, after all that mugging, you're kind of like, oh, thank you, bad CGI. Whew. Okay, I'm saved from the Nicolas Cage mugging for a little bit. Like,
Which, because like I remember when I first saw this movie, I thought it was like one continuous take of the transformation, but no, there's like 3 or 4 cuts to different takes of him mugging the camera as his skin is peeling away to the skull, and then there's like the flame effect on the screen, and then he's Ghost Rider.
which is the worst transformation? Nicolas Cage to Ghost Rider or Nicolas Cage's dumb-looking bike to Ghost Rider's dumber-looking bike? I honestly can't figure out which of those bikes looks dumber. Like, if you wanted to be like, hey, Johnny Blaze rides a cool hog, that ain't it. Like, I get that he's a stunt jumper and stuff, but like, maybe you ride the stunt jumping bike for stunt jumps, and then like if you're supposed to be the dude who's into motorcycles, you actually have like a really awesome looking machine for every day.
The cool bike, that's Danny Ketch's Ghost Rider. And I will say, there is a lot of Danny Ketch Ghost Rider for this being a Johnny Blaze movie. The number one, the jacket, that is Danny Ketch, with the spikes on it and the spike gloves, that's Danny Ketch. The pennant stare, it's Danny Ketch. The chain is Danny Ketch. None of that is Johnny Blaze.
Yeah, and I'll no, I'm totally gonna, there are points where I can be like, yeah, this is my comic series, thank you, get out of it. And I will fully admit that Ghost Rider is one of the ones that just never really appealed to me. But if you're gonna do like Ghost Rider origin story, you either have to do a period piece with Carter Slade, which I get why you don't want to do, because then you can't really have the cool motorcycle idea, and that's what people had come to know Ghost Rider as by 2007, you know? The thing, though, is that if you want to do it, you have to use Johnny Blaze. You can't start with Danny Ketch or Robbie Reyes.
Well, Robbie Reyes did not exist at the time of this movie.
Well, I know, but like I'm saying, like you can't just be like, I mean, you can, but it would be a ridiculous idea to just be like, and here's random guy, anybody, because I didn't read Ghost Rider, and even I knew like Ghost Rider is Johnny Blaze, you know?
Yeah, I mean, even when Robbie Reyes showed up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they give the implication that it was Johnny Blaze that passed the spirit of vengeance onto Robbie in that one scene where he dies.
Yeah, but the thing is though is that like once you've introduced the character, you can kind of just be like, and here's a random dude taking on those powers, you know? Like it's you kind of have to start with Johnny Blaze. But the thing is that a lot of the things that people kind of had started to think of, this is part of the Ghost Rider look and vibe, was Danny Ketch, because he had been the most recent one.
He was the one that was in the cartoons in the 90s.
Yeah, and then right before they made this movie, Johnny Blaze came back in the comics and was like, thanks, Danny, I'll take it from here again. You know?
Because they had a movie coming out.
Because they had a movie coming out, so they were like, they switched it back. So, like, you know, I get it. If you're gonna be like, well, it's a bit of a catch-22. Like, you want to use those cool, more modern things because Johnny Blaze is a little too 70s. But the thing is like, even making him a motorcycle stunt rider the reason he's a motorcycle stunt rider and stuff is because, like, Evel Knievel was all the rage when Johnny Blaze was introduced, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you want to have, like, a cool comic book character, it'd be like, what if Evel Knievel made a deal with Satan and now he's a flaming skull? You know, like, but he still rides a cool bike and does stunt jumps and stuff, you know, like, all right, I get it as a vibe, but you can't really do that in 2007 unless you're doing a pastiche or a parody or, you know, something.
You know, probably why they do the flashback to the 80s where his dad is basically Evel Knievel.
Well, yeah, and he's also Evel Knievel that's on the downswing, because by the time when they said it in the 80s, like, that was kind of the era where, like, okay, Evel Knievel, that's like, yeah, we're done with that, you know? Because, I mean, even people our age, like, we grew up hearing about Evel Knievel and, like, seeing clips of him on TV and everything, but he was still something like people older than you liked, you know?
We grew up with the parody of Evel Knievel, freaking Super Dave Osborne.
Yeah, you know, he had been around long enough that, you know, you get Super Dave Osborne and stuff like that, you know? So if you're gonna take a character that was meant to be like, hey kids, you like that Evel Knievel? He's pretty cool, right? Well, now read about Johnny Blaze. It doesn't translate as well to 2007 unless you update that some. And the sad thing is I don't think they updated it enough. Like, they took a lot of the Danny Ketch stuff, which was from, you know, the 90s, most of the 90s, you know. So it had been relatively recent, but was still even a little dated, you know? Like, even the kind of cool look he gets at the end, that's like, yeah, that looks cool 10, 15 years ago, you know? So, I don't know, like, everything about this movie felt like wrong time, wrong place, because they just didn't update it enough. Like, Nicolas Cage would have been a really good Ghost Rider in the early 90s, you know? The look he's sporting would have been really cool in the late 90s or 2000 or what. By 2000, it's a little old hat, you know?
You know, like you said, if they had actually done the movie in the 90s with Nicolas Cage or even with Johnny Depp, this movie would have been fine. I think the movie is 10 years past due, even when it came out. I know there are people who have a sentimental love for this movie, and that's fine. But
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, looking at it without nostalgia goggles, but, like, with more critical eye goggles, you know, of, like, why didn't this movie work in such, I mean, you know, it worked enough to get, like, you know, to make its money back and make a profit and have a sequel and stuff. But if you ask people today, like, you know, like, the Nicolas Cage's Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider, you know, you're gonna get a lot of people like, oh man, I liked that when I was younger. It's such a goofy, weird film, you know?
I think they could have borrowed more from the Danny Ketch writer, especially in terms of the origin. Like, instead of his dad, it's his mom or his sister, like with Danny, that is killed by a gang, and then he gets his vengeance that way. And then he just, after getting his vengeance, okay, you made a deal with the devil. Now you're mine. Now you have to do what I say.
Yeah, but the thing is that they didn't want, this was my other problem with the movie. They did not want this version of Ghost Rider on screen to be an anti-hero. And, you know, like, Danny Ketch is kind of an anti-hero. And even Robbie Reyes is kind of an anti-hero, you know? But, you know, the thing is that this version of Johnny Blaze on screen, the Nick Cage version, is supposed to be, like, completely blameless his entire life, you know? It's why, like, he sits around eating jelly beans instead of, like, slamming handles of, you know, it's like they didn't want to go the, like, he's hard drinking and hard smoking and hard, you know, so it's just like Nicolas Cage being like, hey, you want jelly beans? You know, which is another just bizarre choice, but I get it, you know?
I mean, coming off of, you know, we said this before, coming off the 1, 2, 3 punch of the first Blade, the first X-Men, and the first Spider-Man, and then going into this direction with Ghost Rider, I think one of the big problems is that it's a PG-13 movie. what made Blade work was that it was a R-rated movie and they didn't have to hold back. But because this is a PG-13 movie, and it's that way because they want kids to see the movie, you have to hold back.
Well, and the other thing is, though, is that most of Ghost Rider's supernatural powers, like if you're going to have him taking out bad guys and whatever, this is a mostly bloodless movie because he takes out the demons and stuff with, the chain of fire thing. But for any of the humans he takes out, he uses the penance stare. And the penance stare is like, oh, we go into a special effect montage and everything, and then their body is okay, and then we just like CGI a little bit in of like the eyes are smoking or whatever, So you can have it be, honestly, this movie probably would have been PG if like a couple of people didn't say some mild swear,
Mm-hmm.
Because as far as the violence in this movie, it's very cartoony and almost entirely bloodless. In fact, I think the most blood we see on screen is actually from Johnny getting hurt.
Yeah, he gets stabbed in the shoulder, and that's it.
But I think all the rest of the violence is people dying via CGI.
Yeah, the Blackheart's demon buddies all like evaporate.
And the humans that the demons kill all kind of shrivel up, because of Blackheart's thing. It's like, oh, we turn blue and then we shrivel up into raisins or whatever. It's like, it's very cartoony in that sense. And you're right that it is because like they wanted kids to go see this.
Because like, X-Men, Spider-Man, those are movies that, yes, they're superhero movies and they're a little harder, but they're PG-13 movies because you want to get kids to come in here because we got toys to sell. Same thing with this. We got Ghost Rider toys at the store that we want to sell to these kids. We can't have this be an R-rated movie.
I don't know why, because you and I both remember the time of like Terminator toys and
RoboCop toys and Rambo toys.
Yeah, it's like movies that we really shouldn't have been old enough to see, but boy, were they toys on toy shelves.
Yeah. You want to actually get into the plot of this movie?
There was a plot in this movie?
Yeah. So there's like multiple plots in this movie. It's weird.
Yeah,
but
none of them are that easy to follow, and also so thin at the same time.
So yeah, at some point in the 1800s, there was a town of San Venganza, which was so evil, so filled with crime and vile people that when they all died, 1,000 souls, and if they were collected, that Mephisto could bring about hell on Earth. And his ghostwriter, Carter Slade, said, yeah, screw that, and kept the contract for himself because he knew if he handed it over, Mephisto, yeah, hell on Earth. Can't have that happen. And that is the most of the plot. And then we get into Johnny's story. He's a teenager in the 80s. He's working with his dad in his dad's stunt show. He wants to run away and get married to his girlfriend, Roxanne. But he doesn't do this because he finds out that his father is dying of cancer. So, Mephisto comes to Johnny and makes him a deal. He will take away his father's cancer in exchange for Johnny's soul. And the deal is made, and Mephisto makes good on his promise. The next day, Johnny's dad is cancer-free. But the devil never plays fair. And on that very day, as they do the stunt jump, the stunt goes wrong and Johnny's dad dies.
And it's very obvious that Mephisto caused the thing, in the movie. It's not just like, oh, I knew he was going to die or something. So no, it's like, it's very obvious that he caused.
Like I said, the devil doesn't play fair. So that's your father will not die of cancer. I didn't say he wouldn't die of this accident.
Yeah, but the reason why Johnny sold his soul is like such a plot point later on in the movie, because it's like, oh, you didn't sell your soul for greed or for vengeance or anything. You sold it out of love. and therefore that makes you the best of us, it's like,
God's on your side.
yeah, okay.
I mean, it's trying to play up the doing a bad thing for a good reason. It's probably why Johnny calls the little kid in lockup innocent.
Yeah.
Because like himself, the kid probably did a crime. He probably was hungry and wanted to eat. We don't know anything about this kid. All we know,
given the American justice system, he probably did abso-friggin-lutely nothing at all, and he was just, a not white kid walking down a street.
yeah.
Considering, do we ever see a cop that isn't a white man? Well, like, that isn't white. I remember seeing women cops in, like, the crowd shots, but I don't really remember seeing a lot of faces of color among the cops, which, I mean, granted, Texas, but yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, Nicolas Cage's attempt at a Southern accent and his dynamic posing, apparently, from what I've looked up, it was him trying to be Elvis.
Which, can we please stop with people being Elvis? Like, Elvis shouldn't have even been Elvis. One was annoying enough. Other people stopped trying to be Elvis. We had one. It was more than enough. That's over with. Can we please just, like, move on as a species?
Even the shades that Johnny wears are very late 70s Fat Elvis era sunglasses.
Yeah, and they would have been fine on Johnny Blaze in the 70s. Yeah, like, again, these are things that would have worked on a movie made in a much earlier time. And I think they'd just been working on this movie for so long that they never updated anything.
Well, like I said, they've been trying to make this movie at this point for almost 15 years. Who knows if it's even the same script or not? We don't know.
I mean, it's not. Apparently, they got a script from David S. Goyer, who I respect a lot more. He wrote Blade. He wrote The Dark Knight. He's a guy who should be writing comic book movies. And I don't know what happened to his script, because the only writer that I remember being credited on this is Mark Steven Johnson, the guy who made Daredevil with Ben Affleck. Yeah.
You want to know our opinion on the Daredevil movie? Go back and listen to our Daredevil episode.
Yeah.
Johnny is taking more and more dangerous stunts every time because he says he's waiting for a sign. And apparently the sign is reconnecting with his old girlfriend, Roxanne, who has now become a very successful reporter. And they reconnect. There's an entire really weird, dumb chase scene that he tries to impress her with, and she's like not having it. But eventually she agrees to have dinner with him. And of course, the night of their date is when he first transforms into Ghost Rider, so he completely stands her up, even accidentally. And this is the part that I want to talk about. I'm not going to poo-poo on Eva Mendes, her in the movie. She's working with what she's given.
And what she was given was a pile of crap.
So you have this very successful reporter who gets stood up on a date and pouring wine into a glass till the brim, drinking herself silly, and begging the male waiter to tell her that she's pretty. Girl, you are a successful businesswoman. You don't need male validation.
Well, the thing is like, this is something that I can believe would end up in a first draft script. But once you cast Eva Mendes, there should have been, like, I don't know, 100 people on set going, you realize that this does not make a lick of sense. Like, Nicolas Cage looking like Nicolas Cage, which no shade to Nicolas Cage, Nicolas Cage looking like Johnny Blaze does in this movie. Let's put it that way. Because that's not Nicolas Cage's normal look, and Nicolas Cage has got some swag. So I'm not putting that on him. But, like, the Johnny Blaze of this movie stands a woman that looks like Eva Mendes when she looks in the mirror up for a date, and it reduces her to drunkenly hitting on gay waiters, being like, you think I'm pretty, right? Like, why did nobody stop this from being filmed?
Because there probably wasn't a single woman in the writer room.
But was there not a single woman on set? Was there not a guy with eyes on set to be like, okay, but she's Ava Mendes. She knows she's hot. Like, you know, like, and I'm not saying that in a vanity way, but like, damn, come on, you know?
Yeah, a woman that looks like Ava Mendes would not even think twice about being stood up by a guy that looks like Nicolas Cage, especially, if we're going by ages. Nicolas Cage is about 10 years older than Ava Mendes, so she shouldn't be that depressed over a guy 10 years older than her standing her up on a date.
Okay, and I know that we are told, we're not really shown it as much, but we are told quite frequently that apparently Johnny Blaze is like a worldwide star. You know what I mean? Because like Mephisto even says, like, I'm your biggest fan, like all of the TV specials and the video games and it's like the guy is supposed to be like Tony Hawk or something, it's like, or Evil Knievel, going back to that, but like more modern reference, slightly.
For the era.
For the era, like, it's like, oh, it's the Johnny Blaze video game series. Like that to me reads kind of like the Tony Hawk,
Johnny
skater
Blaze
series.
Pro Cycler.
Yeah, Johnny Blaze Pro Cycler or something, Johnny Blaze Stunt Cycler or something. Who knows? But, and I get that he's got like a really nice touring bus that him and his boys hang out in. And, like we are given these little hints that Johnny Blaze is supposed to be like this really famous person. But, okay, we see him at the beginning of the movie in the 80s being like, I'm a stunt rider with my dad in a carnival show, and we're like just outside of Texas or just on the border or something. And then it's like 20 years later, and Johnny Blaze is apparently world famous without ever having left Texas.
Yeah, because he can just go home from wherever they do the thing, and he just has this apartment where he has
and
all
they're
of his
always
bikes
in
at.
Texas. Anytime you see like a sign, it's always like, welcome to Texas, or, hey, like, so he's either like in Texas or just over the border, because most of the movie seems to take place in Texas because that's where San Venganza was, and I get it, but could they not have been like, he's coming back home or whatever? But instead, they made it Ava Mendes be the one that moved away, which is, fair because she's doing that at the beginning of the movie. Her father is sending her away to go live with her mother. So apparently, she left, went and lived with her mother, became like a really famous, you know. So, like, at this point, it's not like small town girl looking at the big celeb guy. They're apparently kind of equal celebrity status, except people treat Ava Mendes's character more like she's a celebrity than they treat Nicolas Cage's character. Because we see how the public reacts to her. Like, random cops and stuff are going like, hey, I watch you on TV all the time. And there's like random people in the crowd being like, oh my God, it's you, like, but when Johnny Blaze walks past, people are like, okay, stay away from the weirdo, where it's like, wouldn't people being like, oh, wow, Johnny Blaze, let me get your autograph?
I mean, that does happen at the beginning, but it's at his show.
Yeah, if it's at your show, I get it. Like, there are people we know that are not worldwide famous, but if you go to their show, they will have fans asking them for their autograph, So, like, fame exists on different levels, but both of these people are supposed to be at least nationally famous, according to this movie. And yet, Ava Mendes is the only one that people kind of seem to react to seeing her in public.
Who knows? I mean, the only other time is like when he stops traffic because he wants to ask Roxanne out on a date, and oh, hey, Johnny Blaze is there. Cool.
Well, yeah, but they're also in the same town where he just performed a big stunt show. So, are you regionally famous? Are you like, like, this is what I'm saying. Because the way Mephisto makes it sound, it's like, the world famous Johnny Blaze, and it's not like sarcastic. He lists off things that, like, yeah, you'd have to be pretty famous to have all that stuff in 2007,
Yeah.
It's always been a bit of the movie that's always kind of made me go like, "Ugh." And a lot of that has to do with how they treat Roxanne. Like, they treat Roxanne like she's like, "Oh, wow, my high school boyfriend has come back and now he's a famous superstar, so I'm super starstruck by him." Like, no, girl, you're on his level.
Like, she's not starstruck by him. Like, she wants to interview him because he's a celebrity, and it's like, oh, can you do a favor for an old friend? She's completely dismissive of his attempts to kind of reconnect with her until, like, the only way he'll leave her alone is to say yes. And then they go out on the date, he stands her up, and then she's like, tell me I'm pretty. It's like, you didn't give two craps half an hour ago in this movie, and now you're all worried that this guy stood you up?
Yeah, the man nearly caused a 7 semi pileup trying to get you to say yes to dinner, which, by the way, men learn to take no as an answer. Oh my God. But, and now she's like crying over him over wine. I'm like, seriously, girl, come on.
But it's sign. That's how he sees it. It's like reconnecting with Roxanne for Johnny is the sign that there's something more for him. That he's been doing all of this for a reason.
And then, like, he finds out that, like, oh no, the reason I've been doing all this is that apparently Mephisto has been giving me good luck.
You can't die, I need you.
Apparently I'm not going to need you for 20 years or something, but, whatever.
So yeah, the reason he's been able to survive these stunt jumps, he believes it's a sign that there's something else out there for him. But no, it's literally the devil has been keeping you alive because he needs you for this contract.
Yeah, because a lot of that stuff, and he should have known a lot of that stuff, because, like, in a comic book movie, even in a comic book movie, without superpowers, the stuff that he does should have been, like, that jump that they actually show him doing at the beginning of the movie, like, physically, as in, by the laws of physics, impossible jump the way they have it set up. So, like, yeah, you either have superpowers or, like, some supernatural forces helping you or something, because, like, by the laws of physics, that jump shouldn't be possible.
Like, the scene afterwards where he's trying to learn how to use his powers, control his powers, would be fine. Like, he's trying to summon the hellfire from his hand and lights candles with it, which is, it's a funny scene, but I like it because it shows that, he's trying to control the powers. But the mugging into the mirror, trying to make himself transform, again, someone needs to reel in Mr. Cage on that.
Yeah. I think that the way that the script is written is kind of, because it's literally like, if you tell somebody, like, apparently the writer is supposed to be able to control the spirit inside of him by, like, learning to use the fire that's within all mankind or whatever, and so he goes home and he's like, I am speaking to the fire inside of me. I want control of the spirit. And I'm like, okay, nobody would do that.
Yeah, that could have been written better.
Like,
I don't know how you write it. I don't know how you write that better, but it could have been written better where maybe he's talking to the writer, like, I'm speaking to the writer. Can you hear me? If you can hear me, help me control this power, or something like that. I don't know. It doesn't even sound stupid when I'm saying.
What is the fire that's in humankind? And then he could try to, like, make himself angry or make himself be, stare at a picture of Roxanne and be like, well, love is sometimes referred to as fire. Like, okay,
Love is a burning flame. I fell into a burning ring of fire.
Exactly. Get it from a better Johnny,
Yeah.
And it would have shown him at least trying to figure it out. Like, you don't just be like, hey, fire inside me. Give me control. Like, that's the dumbest way anybody could do that. And you're like, oh, so all of those blows to the head really have taken a toll, haven't they?
A lot of concussions. CTE. But another part of this movie that I do like is that since making this deal with Mephisto, Johnny has gotten into reading a lot of books about mythologies, of the underworld, of demons. There is, yes, Mephistopheles. That's where Mephisto comes from. And there's one scene where he's reading Faust. So he's diving into every single religion and mythology about an underworld that he can find to kind of understand what the hell is going on with him.
What the literal hell is going on with him, yeah. It's so weird because if you're like, what is the plot of this movie? And you're like, okay, so for the first hour of this movie, we're just going to have like a dude trying to get a date with a chick. And then the movie's going to turn into like a weird superhero movie. You know, like it's just the pacing is so off.
Yeah.
But you know, let's talk a little bit more about Blackheart and his minions, cuz I don't know whether I like them or hate them. Like, I think if they could have stopped putting special effects over Wes Bentley, he would have been a really good Blackheart. But then he's got the, like, weird angels of the elements or whatever that he brought with him. It's like, or the demons of the, you know, the
Whatever.
elements, I guess. And it's like, oh, we've got the water demon and the air demon and the earth demon. And then suddenly the Fire Nation attacked. You know, like, can we? I don't know.
So does that make Blackheart the heart demon? Then they can all combine together to make Captain Planet?
Oh my god. I didn't think about that, but yeah, like, get those three guys, the Ghost Rider and Blackheart, and we'll form a really, really hideous Captain Planet.
But as Blackheart is the son of Mephisto, he mentions that he was born in hell. He does not have a soul to give. At one point, Ghost Rider tries to penance stare on him, and it doesn't work because he doesn't have a soul. Thus, technically, he cannot sin.
Yeah, and the thing is that the penance stare, because when I was doing research for this, I was like, okay, this is not really the thing I know a lot about. So I did research on the penance stare, and apparently the penance stare as like a force itself really would just see any life as being sinful, like you're alive and therefore I could burn your soul out, you know? But apparently the morality of whoever is using it is what shapes the penance stare.
Hence why Johnny would see that little kid as innocent. He made he likely, like him, he makes one mistake. The entire point of the movie is Johnny said he made one mistake when he was a kid, and he shouldn't have to suffer for one mistake.
It's like, okay, given our current justice system, like if you were to shoplift something from a big box store, right? That's a crime that would end you up in jail. But when you're looking at it from the penance stare is like, here, feel the pain of all the wrong you have done to another human. Like, what pain have you caused another human with that technically illegal thing?
Oh no, my profits.
Yeah, I mean, like, a CEO is not going to matter because shrinkage is just like mixed into their yearly budget, you know? Like, they plan for people to steal things, you know? It's just written as a byline in the budget. Like, so, like, and the workers, unless you actually harmed a worker in the theft, like, it's not, so there's nothing really for that. The way that Johnny Blaze in this movie uses the penance stare, because this version specifically says that the penance stare makes us all feel all of the harm they have done to other people. So, like, the mugger, when he goes into his little montage, you hear, like, gunshots and people screaming and, like, no, please don't, and, all that kind of stuff. So, apparently, Johnny came in and rescued Rebel Wilson at what was probably going to end up in her death. If we believe the little montage of the penance stare, this guy was probably either someone who had murdered or maimed a lot of people during the course of his robberies. It seems very violent. When we see him use the penance stare on other souls, it's like extremely violent stuff that comes up. It's not just like, well, technically you were on the wrong side of some law or whatever. And there's even points in the comic book when I was researching it that like the penance stare doesn't work on people who do not feel guilt. Like, so even if you've done something that normally the writer would consider a great sin, like if you're the sort of person who feels no guilt for those actions, it just doesn't work.
Technically speaking, the penance stare should not work on someone like Galactus. It should not work on someone like Thanos, because they feel no guilt.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the thing. Like, if you were to port it into the MCU, like, Thanos felt absolutely no guilt for the snap. Regret that it had to be done, maybe, but that's different, you know? It's like, well, this was the only solution and I had to do it, and that's kind of sad, but, you know, now everything is better according to me, you know? So, yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. Like, under those rules, I don't think it would have really. Now, for the other, like, lower quote unquote crimes that he had done, might work. But if we're just taking that one thing, you know, it really would depend. But, you know, so that's one of the things that I thought was really interesting about the jail scene, you know, is that innocent doesn't necessarily mean innocent of an earthly crime. It's just like innocent as in you haven't actually harmed a person, you know?
And like I said, this is a kid that we see. He's a kid. We don't know what he did, and I like that we don't know.
Or if he did anything.
Exactly.
I still think he was probably just falsely picked up.
Wrong place, wrong time.
You match the description, you know, like one of those.
But that's, you know, like I said, that's Johnny's entire thing, is that he made one mistake when he was a kid, in his words, making this deal with the devil, and he feels that he shouldn't have to pay for this one sin for the rest of his life.
Yeah, and the thing is that it was a mistake. Is like, I don't know. I mean, I guess if you're like looking at like biblical laws or whatever, selling your soul to the devil would be a sin. But like, again, what person did he hurt? Because if his dad was going to die of cancer and he removed the cancer, but the devil killed him anyway, that's not on Johnny. So there's nothing really to say like, well, he's at fault for that. Like, no, Mephisto's at fault for that. So Johnny really doesn't seem to have any like real sins unless you count the trading your soul to the devil for the cancer thing, which at the time Johnny is 17 and the guy's like, well, what if I could cure your dad's cancer? Would you give me your soul? And it's very much portrayed like that episode of The Simpsons where Bart sells his soul to Milhouse. You know, it's like Bart sells it because he doesn't really believe it's real. It's like, yeah, I'll sell you my non-existent soul, you know? And then, like, over the course of, you know, with Lisa, like, you know, bless mom's soul and dad's soul, and like, you know. And so it kind of seems like that sort of deal. Like, Johnny is just talking to this weird old man who walked in and is like, hey, if I cured your dad's cancer, would you give me something you don't believe in anyway? You know, like.
Yeah.
So there's really nothing to blame Johnny for, like, at all, in my opinion, which is one of the things why I don't like this version of Johnny Blaze. Like, I want there to be a little more nuance. Like, I want there to be a little more tarnish on the Ghost Rider, you know?
Much like, you know, like I said with Danny Ketch, his sister was murdered. He took the spirit of vengeance because he wanted to make those that killed his sister pay. That is a legit, you know, that is a sin. Vengeance is a sin.
Yeah. Johnny has no vengeance in this. It's just he goes from like, I'm sitting in my trailer eating jelly beans to like, okay, let me give you the penance stare. And it's because Mephisto like makes him do that. There's nothing within him that's driving that. And in fact, it's not like we see with other writers that it's like, well, this spirit of vengeance has now merged with you, which I kind of think is really cool in the fact that Johnny never really can control it, you know?
I mean, he does towards the end with the let's ride thing, but it's like, all he has to do is be within in the vicinity of evil, and then he can't control the spirit. So,
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why he has such a hard time with the control thing, is like, there's no vengeance to muster. There's nothing backing, like, what? And I think that the only way he can control it at the end is when he's like, I am going to see my dad in every person that gets harmed. From here on out, any harm done to a human, I will take personally, as if it was done to my father by the hand of Mephisto himself. And now that's some vengeance, you know? Because that is like, at that point, he's like, okay, I am transferring my rage toward my father's killer to every evildoer I come across. And that gives him some control. But like, Johnny's not really a vengeful guy. He's just a dude that kind of is depressed most of the movie and then gets forced to be Ghost Rider. And this is more a werewolf movie in the way it's structured. It's like, well, at nighttime, you're going to turn into this hideous monster and go out and kill people. And it's like, is this Ghost Rider or is this Werewolf by Night?
yeah.
So I think that's another reason I have a problem with it, is like, there's not a lot of motivation behind Johnny, and it's just like, well, whenever you're near evil, and also it is dark, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get back to Blackheart's plan, because there is a very thin plot to this movie. Blackheart decides that he's going to take Roxanne hostage because he can't find, he's tried beating up Carter Slade, and Carter Slade won't tell him where the contract is, so he decides, well, let me kidnap Roxanne, I'll hold her hostage, and I'll make the current Ghost Rider go to the former Ghost Rider, and they can fight it out. And so, Carter is like, you know what? You do everything for love. You're the best of us. I trust that you're going to do the right thing, and just gives him the contract. And then is like, okay, I'll give you my gun and say farewell. And like, just, yeah. And then he just dusts away,
I will say the image of the two Ghost Riders going across the desert, two Ghost Riders in disguise, is a pretty cool visual.
Do you like that Johnny's on his bike and he's like, can you keep up? Because it's like old man and horse versus younger guy and, bike. And I love that, like, Carter Slade transforms and the fire horse looks at him like, do not make me stomp you, bitch. Like, it's the only really good CGI in the movie. It's the look that fire horse gives Johnny, as to like, really, you think a machine can outdo me? I am a horse that's on fire. Are you kidding me?
So yeah, we've reached the big climax at San Vaganza, where the contract is on the line, and we get the big showdown between Ghost Rider and Blackheart. One thing I did not remember of this movie is every time somebody hits each other, especially in that final fight, you get these flashes just before hand makes contact with face. And I noticed that in like kids' cartoons to kind of show off we can't show physical contact can't show violence like that. So I wonder if that's part of the PG-13 thing, that we can't have like blood coming out of the mouth or whatever.
Yeah, also, the dudes he's fighting are demons. Do they even bleed? We don't know. But, finally, Johnny shows up and he's like, okay, Blackheart, here's the contract. Here's the, give me my girlfriend back and everything. And Blackheart absorbs all of the souls. And, oh yeah, well, now you've got a soul, don't you? In fact, you've got 1,000 souls, and all of them are evil.
I love that was his plan. It's like, he can't beat Blackheart because Blackheart doesn't have a soul. Well, here's 1,000 evil souls, the very souls that Mephisto wants to use to bring Hela on Earth. But now they're all absorbed into Blackheart. So now the penance dare can work.
Yeah. And then, like, Mephisto shows up and he's like, all right, killed my son or whatever. I guess that's contract complete. Let me make you stop being Ghost Rider. And then Johnny's like, no, I'm going to keep being Ghost Rider. And I'm going to see everything done as the same way that you hurt my dad. And since I can't get at you, I'm going to get at them. And like the only really good part of this movie to me, like where I'm like, okay, they did that right, is the one little bit like after the battle is finally over, but before he like says like, okay, I'm going to keep the Ghost Rider spirit, is there's that one little bit where he's still in his full Ghost Rider, persona or whatever.
Mhm.
And Roxanne walks up to him and he turns away and he's like, monster. And she goes, no, I'm not afraid. And she reaches up and she touches the flaming skull and then it like turns back into Johnny's face. And that is like the only time where I'm like, okay, movie, I am 1000% with you in this moment.
It's very Hulk-like. And I'm not talking about the Black Widow version, the Betty version, where she kind of puts her hand on the Hulk and he just calms down enough to turn back into Banner.
Yeah, it's like, okay, Hulk smash everyone except for this girl, like it's kind of like that with Roxanne there too. But yeah, and then the thing is I'm like, okay, once he sold his soul to Mephisto is able to give him the Ghost Rider spirit or whatever, right? How is Mephisto not just able to take that back from him in the end? I mean, in the context of this movie.
He should be able to, but I guess because Johnny is saying no deal, I'm going to keep it. He gets to keep it?
But the thing is like, the Ghost Rider was never part of the deal. He was never like, hey, you sell me your soul and you become my bounty hunter and I will cure your father's cancer. No, the deal was just for Johnny's soul. So when he gives back the soul, shouldn't that have like ended the contract and just he can revoke the rider? And yes, pun intended on that. But like,
does Johnny even get his soul back?
Well, yeah, that was the deal. He was like, okay, you kill Blackheart and I will end our contract and give you back your soul. That was kind of the deal they made when Johnny was like, no, I don't want to be this. And he was like, well, you know what? I'll tell you what, since you're not really willing. The thing is it seems like Johnny doesn't have the powers of Ghost Rider until Mephistopheles comes up and is like, Blackheart's come out, and since I already own your soul, I'm going to make you the Ghost Rider. There's no like him being like, oh, I'll make you a new deal. It's just like, no, your soul is mine. I can make you the Ghost Rider. And so that's what I don't like about the movie logic. And like, you can come at me with like, well, in the comics and stuff, but if we're just taking a movie as a movie, the movie doesn't set this up. You could kind of say like a little bit in the Carter Slade because Carter Slade runs away. So maybe that's the precedent.
Maybe. Because he still has the writer spirit, his own writer spirit. Although he says, he only had a finite amount of times he can transform after bailing on Mephisto. Supposedly the one time he rode with Johnny was the last time he was able to do it. So the implication is that because he ran away from Mephisto, he only has a finite amount of transformations he could do to become the writer before he goes off to the afterlife.
Yeah, so is this Johnny being like, well, okay, maybe I'll get 5 bad guys before the spirit like leaves me like it left him or something? I don't know.
I don't know.
It's unclear in the movie, and I don't like that. There are some things I'm okay with being left unclear in movies. It's not that everything has to be tied up in a neat bow, but when you're dealing with something like the very reason the hero is given his powers, maybe set that up a little better. Because he's basically doing the same thing Carter did, and we saw what it did to Carter. So, yeah.
Well, as long as Carter was able to live from the 1800s to 2007 pretty well. Just looks like an old man.
Like, you could say like, no, I'm keeping it. Like, as long as I don't bring the Ghost Rider out, I'll just keep on living or whatever. Okay, fine. But that's not what he says. He's like, I am going to actively be Ghost Rider. And in the sequel, we see him actively being Ghost Rider, even though we're not talking about the sequel, So it's not like, yeah.
So, Kiki, on all that, does Ghost Rider have the magic?
No, minus that one scene. I mean, I'm glad it exists. Don't get me wrong. But it's not like, I would kind of tell everybody this is one of those things like you watch it once, you say you've watched it, and then you move on. Like, watch this movie once, don't bother with the sequel. And if you've already seen it once, don't bother to go back to it. It does not hold up.
Maybe it's me, maybe because it's in the brain set I'm in currently. But I had fun watching the movie again. It's dumb, it's stupid, but it's also a popcorn flick, and I guess I'm in the mood for a mindless popcorn flick right now. So I'm going to say, at least at this point in time, I'm going to say it has the magic. But as far as this is a, great Marvel movie, but no. But is this a turn off your brain and eat a bunch of popcorn while you watch some cool action scenes? Sure. So I will say it does have the magic, but I will agree that it's definitely of its time and does not stand up, especially, like I said, 1 year later, we would get the first Iron Man movie and start the MCU.
Yeah. See, that to me, I find interesting that you're like, okay, this was a fun popcorn flick that you could just turn off your brain and watch. Because, we both have recently seen one. We're not going to mention it, and we're not going to say spoilers, but, if you know, that we were like, it's not deep, but it's a fun popcorn flick. And to me, this did not feel like a fun popcorn flick personally. I'm glad it did for you. I'm really glad it did for you. I wish it did for me.
I think you could shave, I would say, about 20 minutes off this movie.
You could make that first 50 minutes into like a 10-minute opener easily. I'm sorry.
It's definitely one. I mean, there are movies that I can watch. Like, I will skip the first half because it moves so slow. But when we get to the second half of the movie, it's fine. And that's my feeling on Ghost Rider. If you could shave 20 minutes off that opening hour, you'd have a really good, tight movie here.
I think it would definitely be a better movie. I didn't even find this fun popcorn flick. It was a lot like watching the Nick Fury movie that we did about a month ago. It was just, to me, this was boring on a rewatch. And I don't know if it was the mood I was in or what, but just to me, it was like, this did not feel like fun popcorn flick. I didn't think the action scenes held up, the plot definitely doesn't. But even if you're just like, did I have fun rewatching it? I did not. I'm glad you did, though. Like, I want that for people. But it just, for me, meh.
So, yeah, and again, there would be a sequel a couple years later, Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. And, of course, Ghost Rider, once the rights would revert back to Marvel, they would put him in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I will say it again, the fact that we never got that Robbie Reyes Hulu series, I will always be mad about that because I really wanted that to happen.
I'll say, if you're itching for some on-screen Ghost Rider and you want to see it done a lot better than it was here, go look up that arc from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Even on a TV budget, I think they made the Ghost Rider work.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not even talking about like visual effects or anything. I just think the character and the motivation of someone who would become a Ghost Rider is done much better in that from a writing standard.
And just because it recently happened, we did, the Punisher special has come and gone by this recording. I mean, technically speaking, he was also a Ghost Rider, so I wouldn't mind that happening.
Yeah, I could deal with that, but I would much rather see Gabriel Luna back as Robbie Reyes. Like,
same. But if that was not an option, I would not be against Punisher Ghost Rider, Space Ghost Rider.
Hey.
But yeah, as for next week, the World Cup is starting here in the States. So we're going to be watching a soccer movie, and after going through a lot of soccer movies that we could have used, we're going to be talking about Bend It Like Beckham, which I'm surprised we haven't done yet.
I legitimately had thought we had done it. I was surprised when you told me we hadn't.
Yeah. So come back next week as we talk Bend It Like Beckham, and we'll talk to you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Don't let the magic stop here.
Keep the conversation going. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Rewatching the Magic.
We are also on Blue Sky, rewatchingthemagic.bsky.social.
And new episodes are available at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com and youtube.com/@rewatchingthemagic.
Remember, the magic is for everyone.
It only stops if you let it.
We know that right now, things are tough.
But in the words of Jim Henson, the only way the magic works is by hard work. But hard work can be fun.
Check out our show notes for ways that you can help.